welcome to our channel, or welcome back to the channel if you've not been here before. Please like and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so that you can see when we post more. This video is a second part. This is going to be more about the curriculum side of what Central Diggers was. If you didn't watch the previous video, do that. It'll help explain a lot of what we're going to be going through this evening. This is going to be more about the nuts and bolts part of it, more of what the actual material was, and not just the overall idea of what Central Diggers was.
Yeah, so Mary Carol, when we decided on the project that part one is about, when we decided on that, and you knew that you wanted to do classes about Bible, science and the Bible, how did we start? What did we do?
It took a lot of, digging to kind of think of where we were going with that and what we were going to do as far as the actual direction. I knew I wanted something to do with how the science and the Bible fit together. I just didn't know exactly where I wanted to go with it.
And so, of course, we had talked about the main subject area, and we decided that there's one place to go if you're talking about apologetics. So we went to
Apologetics Press.
So,
I actually ended up bringing when I was working through my proposal, I actually sent part of the proposal to, I believe it was Eric Lyons, and I think he talked with a couple of others about it. They looked through my project, and I asked for some ideas on some class topics that they thought would fit well with where we were going with this. They gave me a whole list. I did ask if they would change anything for maybe the little kids, since the classes were better for a little bit older, but in the end, we mostly used the ideas and the topics that they sent to me, which was very helpful.
And we also talked to Dr. Jeff Miller, actually when we were polishing the pulpit, so we got to speak to him in person. And Eric Lyons too, we got to speak to in person. So we got their opinion about some crucial topics. But at the end of the day, we decided they had one book that would really be great for all but maybe the younger two classes, but for the 3rd and 4th grade, 5th and 6th, and the 7th through 12th grade, we decided to use their Truth Be Told book as our main text because it's 13 lessons. It's designed to be like not a science textbook, but basically a textbook about how to cipher through science textbooks. And so we mainly went with that, and we didn't go in order. We kind of looked at how many sessions did we have? Do you remember? Was it 9 or 8? Sorry, Adam's giving me signals over there. I do have glasses. I should. So 8 classes. We had to kind of narrow down some things. We had to figure out what we're going to include and what we're not. But that helped a lot with the older classes to be able to have that one book to go by. I want to talk about the topics that we used, and then I want to see. Well, no, first, Mary Carol, let's talk about how did the younger classes? How did we kind of? Because there are certain topics that older kids are going to be able. Maybe they've heard about. Maybe they've had it in their own science classes, but a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old who we really believe needed to have some basics of this.
Especially with evolution being so prominently taught in public schools and even a little bit in private schools. Just that's so
television
promoted.
Shows for little kids.
Yes, yeah. It's so promoted and just out there, and just, hey, this is true. And like you said, television shows, cartoons,
their little books at home.
Kids are getting into that kind of thing and looking at it and going, oh, this is true, but that's not what I hear in Bible class. So what if this is right and what if this is wrong? Which is why I pushed for having a lot of the younger classes.
So the topics that we decided, I'm going to really quick, we'll talk about those. But then I want to talk about how did we kind of tweak it for the little kids. And you actually helped teach the youngest class, the 4s and 5s. So I don't, and it's been a while, so I have my list of our class topics. We did a class about where did everything come from. And all of this was covered. All of it was covered with Apologetics Press materials, but most of it was in that book, Truth Be Told. And they had a new edition. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But where did everything come from? And then we had a whole class session on what is evolution, because I remember in that class we talked about microevolution and macroevolution, and even young kids can grasp that a little bit. I did third and fourth grade, so we talked about what things like that meant, natural selection, and how sometimes that can be confusing. And that was actually a really fun class. So our designed world was another class topic about just the unique things in creation and how it all just fit together. Fossils, we did a class session on fossils. That was fun. And oh no.
Okay, while she's looking for that picture, which she accidentally just lost, of our class topics, I will say part of us using that book, it was meant for teens. So it was a little bit harder to use that book in particular to for the younger classes. First and second used some of the examples from the books and some of the videos, I do believe, to get some ideas of where to go. 4 and 5-year-olds, oh baby, those kids, you cannot just take a teen's book and just bring it down. We took the general idea and went through Apologetics website and pulled from their younger kids' books, their more classic books, and tried to just fit them with some of the topics, which helped a lot as far as having more material prepared and having some more to work with, since that Truth Be Told book didn't really fit very well for the 4 and 5-year-olds because they are so young.
If you look at their website, Apologetics Press website, you'll see that they have these little readers. Some are for very young readers, and some they have some advanced readers. And so there were so many books that a lot of the lessons, there was a little kid book that talked about some part of the lesson that we were going to focus on with the bigger kids. Not all of them, but there might be one about there's one about God's design. I can't think of the title, but it all kind of fit. One on the human body, and which that was I'll finish since I got my picture back now. But we did. I think I ended with fossils and the age of the earth. That was a class topic, and then a whole session on dinosaurs. Did humans evolve? And then the last two are not necessarily. Some of this is can I trust the Bible? That was based more on the Apologetics Press book. How do you know the Bible is from God? Because we were talking about the how the Bible came to be, how it was inspired, and that was a really interesting class. And very often things we don't talk about, like you mentioned earlier in our Bible classes, and we don't talk about these topics very much with little kids, with any age group of kids. And then the very last session was science in the Bible, and that was mainly, if I remember right, just scientific things that the Bible supported and proved. So things that
things that were disproved.
Right. The people disagree, like, oh, the Bible mentions this, and that doesn't even make sense. But then later on, there was a discovery or something like that. That was more of that one, and that was in the Truth Be Told book too. So some of the little kid books, the little readers, I know they had one on dinosaurs.
There was one on dinosaurs. There was one on the human body.
Mm-hmm.
There was one called "Does God Like to Paint?"
Oh, that was
that one. I had read a lot of the little readers' books because we had those growing up. We had from pretty much any age you could want. from the little bitty ones up through like some of the more advanced readers. That's what we had to practice with a lot. So I knew some of the books already of what we could use, and I had an idea of where we could go with it. I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Where was I going with that?
This is our very high-tech thing. Dad just walked across the living room and we were like, what is he doing? He's giving us a book. How do you know the Bible is from God?
Yes, that was one of the main ones.
This is a really good book.
There was that one, and there was How Do You Know God Is Real?
Right.
Those two books were for that one particular night that it more focused on this book in general, but those books combined, I think, were very good for that topic. The readers, so sorry.
Okay.
As far as going through all this stuff, we found a book in particular that somehow fit with every night. Was it perfect? No. Were there times it had nothing to do with the topic? Yes. We used a lot of their quails, whales, and there's a bunch of the readers
the very youngest readers of books.
Yes.
And so what we did is that we bought those for the little kids, and they all got a copy because they're just $2 a piece. So when you registered, we kept up with how many kids we were going to have, and at the end of the class sessions, at the end of the entire series, they had a little bag full of the little readers and the books, and does God loves to paint, and that was actually about the very first lessons about the universe. And so they have some really nice materials. We also used some of their Discovery magazines that we would hand out because those were, if you're familiar, just like a little full-size pamphlet, magazine-size pamphlet that had to do with the topic. We tried to find those that had to do with the topic we were studying, and so we, at least for about half of our classes, we had a Discovery magazine that we could send. So everything we used, I think we ordered a couple of fossil kits. So that was something that was not Apologetic Express material, but just to let them dig for fossils or sift for a fossil.
There was a couple of classes that did that, and that happened to be one of the nights I taught, and I knew I was not going to be able to keep their attention very well. It's 4 and 5-year-olds. Who can? Please tell me if you know how. As much as I deal with kids, I still haven't figured it out. But Five Below was my best friend. I found these little digging kits. They had one for water, they had one for sand-ish typed material. There was like a concrete and then a really hard stone. But we worked through chiseling at it, looking at how, this is how they dig through it, and this is how we kind of find stuff, kind of the more archaeological side, I think that's a word, of things. And so it wasn't just, this is how it was done. It was also, this is how we know. This is dinosaur. This is how we learned more about the dinosaurs, how we know kind of what they looked like.
And how fossils are formed. Because that night we saw, and I know in our class we focused a lot in that particular lesson about how fossils are formed and what caused a lot of the fossils in a great big level of the earth, the geological levels of the earth. And one of the things we talked about was the global flood. And so we used fossils that kids have heard about, and we talked about different kinds of fossils, how they're formed, and the reason, we don't see, if an animal dies on the side of the road, that's not going to turn into a fossil. And we talked about why, the air and water and oxygen, all of that kind of decomposing the animal. But so that was just all of the lessons were really good and interesting. And I think for the kids, just to hear that even in the youngest levels, that is so important. And I know, that was kind of the purpose of every lesson, was not that you're going to cover all the heavy-duty scientific topics, especially with the little kids. But just to give them the introduction to, when you hear these words, we don't want our kids to be scared of scientific terms when they need
Or
to know that we don't want them to make the division between science and the Bible. We want them
or
to know.
not knowing how to, when their friends say something about science that's not true, that goes against the Bible, or they say, oh, well, you believe the Bible, well, then I guess you don't believe science. I don't want kids to go through that knowing I was never public school. I've never been in one, thankfully. But in public schools and private schools, that's what they're teaching now. Kids are getting bombarded with this thought of evolution, the Big Bang Theory, and all of that. And it's just frightening how, not easily, that's not a good word. I'm looking for a better word here. My brain is going blank.
It's just so prevalent with what they're learning.
Yes, and just how much they push it, how much they leak it into different little things, into books, TV shows. There is an entire new TV show for teens and adults out there now called The Big Bang Theory. It is the dumbest show alive. But that's all it talks about basically, is how evolution is real and true, and just the way it works, and how the Bible isn't real.
Well, and there's another resource we used from AP, and it was God's Wonders of Creation. And so the first and second grade class, I know, used a lot of that material. It had to do with different animals and just how unique the God's design, his design, how it spoke to his perfect nature. And so that was one resource also from Apologetics Press that they used instead of only, the teachers all had that book, truth be told, but the younger ones kind of took those general thoughts and they still made it easier to digest for those little kids. And of course there were, we've already mentioned a couple of the crafts and a couple of experiments, but one thing I was going to say about the truth be told book, the interesting thing, the reason I thought this was, even though these are difficult topics, that book has links embedded into it, and that just means there might be a QR code, and you can scan it on your phone and then pull up a video. And so that was interesting because you could have craft or a video or one or two experiments, and then you were just able to kind of, third and fourth graders weren't just sitting there for 45 minutes, with you talking to them. Like in fact, a lot of times it was hard for me to feel like I was doing, I wanted to do more sometimes. And so, but is there anything else you want to talk about with the curriculum? I think it was just a blessing to have Apologetics Press with this. And if you're not using that, even as a family, that site is full for any little kids all the way up through adults with any topic, scientific, apologetics kind of topic you could think of. And I think as a whole, the church needs to make more use of that, but especially for your children to read about God's creation, and like Mary Carol was saying, not have it be, not there be such a line between God and the Bible that they think they don't go together, or God and science, the Bible and science. And so making them, helping them understand that they don't have to be afraid of science if they believe in God, or if they believe in God, that means they don't, believe in science or whatever. I think that would be good to use all this material. Is there anything else you would want to say about any of this?
The Digger Dug series, we were not able to use as much of that
because they were longer videos.
They are. They can be almost an hour to an hour and a half long at times. Those, as a kid, were hilarious. I loved them. They were a lot of fun, and they brought scientific concepts and ideas down to a child's level. Even if I didn't fully understand it because of how young I was, I rewatched those all the time. So even as much as I don't like science, there are things I know about because I watched the Digger Dug series, or I watched videos by Eric Lyons and Kyle Butt. And like you said, the QR codes are in there. They work through a phone. I managed to get my camera on my computer to see the link, and I managed to pull it up on my computer through that. So pretty much anything that has a camera that has a Google connection can pull up those videos from the QR codes.
And they're all on the site too. So yeah, there's just so much material to use. It was hard to narrow it down. Really, was basically what we're saying. So don't be afraid to try to teach apologetics to your children at home, or having a program like this at church. In fact, the goal with this is to try to have another course of this, but it be more of a maybe, summer quarter thing for kids. And, we haven't nailed down I know one time we talked about that, but we just want to encourage you to, ask questions if you want to about some of the things we use. But don't be afraid to do this. There's more material than you realize about how to do this. So the thing is to know what not to use and what you don't have time for. So
Yes.
I've enjoyed talking with you about this.
It's been a lot of fun. One of the questions that we brought up in the last video was of adults asking if I was going to broaden this so that they could have a class for them to learn some of this stuff as well. Apologetics is not just for kids. It is not just a bunch of silly videos or things of science that are brought down to a children's age level. It is also videos that even adults can learn from. They're not just boring to sit through. They might be brought down younger a little bit, but they still are very, very informative.
And there's lots of older
Yes.
videos for adults.
Yes, there are.
Intended for adults.
There are also articles and different pieces that many people have written, most written by Kyle Butt and Eric Lyons. They do a lot of the material, at least that we mostly look through. So for my adults who didn't get to go to a class, sorry, I didn't have the time to come up with the material by the time we needed to start the classes, but who want to kind of look into this more, definitely check out the website. If you're more of a reader, there's plenty of articles. If you like to listen, the videos are easy to listen to and you don't always have to look at them. So I hope you enjoy those. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so you can see when we post the next time. We'll see you in the next video.